Where do I start? Getting new experience may be extremely challenging, and especially when it comes to technology that you cannot simply access in the cloud or download from the internet, technology like 5G. But we think that right now times are changing, and today I will share it with you. Hi, my name is Dmitry. I'm Chief Technology Officer at SecurityGen, and we are the company which develops cybersecurity solutions for telecom operators mainly, plus some other organizations which utilize 5G networks. And this is why we know pretty much in and out all the difficulties that telecoms in general and security teams specifically face today. And in this presentation, I will brief you about 5G Cybersecurity Lab, which is actually the basic training platform which we created to help security teams better understand how 5G works. But first, let me set the stage as I need to explain a little bit why this topic even worth discussion. And we start with the simple fact that right now the massive upgrade of communication technology is happening. It's on the full swing. 5G is rolling out, Open RAN is getting momentum, workloads are continuously pushed to the cloud, and many other changes happening. This is visible and nice changes. But simultaneously, let's say under the surface, a lot of development is happening as well. And bad actors become more advanced, they become more selective in their attacks. And simultaneously, as telecoms play a much bigger role, this reasons hackers to target mobile networks, to breach critical infrastructures, to get access to valuable customer data, and so on. And this is why it's critical for security teams to be ready for this and be prepared. They must take care of proper protection for new services, new applications, and technologies underneath. Even though there are tons of papers describe 5G security, new protection functionality and features, still it's very complex ecosystem. And you need to know vulnerabilities, you need to be aware of protocol deficiencies and how to handle them. There is a big space for misconfiguration, actually. To address all of this, you need to have skills, obviously. And additional challenge is that security teams, when you're in security teams, you need to get work done on the go. Maybe the construction is already happening, but not much you can influence it already. And still, you need to find some optimal and efficient mitigation measures. And this requires experience, skills. But the question, where do you get this if you always catching up? The good practice, the usual practice, I would say, that usually in IT, we have labs for IT, for network. We can install new solutions. We can configure a lot of enterprise software. We can create some sandboxes, which are isolated systems that mimic operation environment. And nowadays, it's common not only for telecoms, but for all the medium to large organizations to have the test bed. Small environment where the solutions are verified before going to production. This is all for the sake to practice, to try new things, to try things that you cannot experience in operational environment. First of all, in order not to affect it in a negative way. And this is exactly the idea how the Cybersecurity Lab was introduced. Let me tell you the real story. Imagine you have a customer requesting you to help with building the cybersecurity team, which will be responsible for crown jewels of telecom network, for cyber resilience of the core assets. And these guys were quite experienced IT cybersecurity professionals. So we decided to create kind of cybersecurity crash course on telecoms for them. But immediately we faced the challenge with the hands-on exercises. To say that it was limited, to say nothing. Imagine you teach them about LTE, you teach them about radio, you teach about evolved packet core, about GDP, you explain all the peculiarities, all the security threats, you give the examples of attacks, you make a deep dive, you show the exploits, explain exact techniques, and so on. But without practice, it's pretty much like teaching to drive by book without actually handling the steering wheel ever. And there are multiple limitations like this for cybersecurity in telecom space today. You cannot use the real network, for instance, because it's nonsense to try to hack the real network as part of the training course. No way, it's not allowed. Another suggestion is to use the usual network big test bed. created by big vendors for MNOs, but unfortunately, it's always busy. And this is how 5G Cybersecurity Lab actually resolves this challenge, because it is, yes, it is small, but this is the complete network with all the significant pieces inside. And this is almost a turnkey solution, pretty much to a reasonable extent. Why I'm saying to the reasonable? Because it's also quite flexible. You can customize it up to the level that the end user will cope with it. And the important thing that it is purpose-built specifically for cybersecurity exercises. And the goal we had in our mind when we started this is to make it easier to kick off, to start hacking first, then continue with testing and deploying of protection measures, all for the sake to speed up and simplify the learning process for telecom cybersecurity professionals to be more into the 5G topic. If we take a look under the hood, it's pretty much simple. It's constructed with all the usual and widely available hardware, commercial off the shelf. It uses a range of open source software, different projects for the network functions, for virtualization. And on the edge, we put software-defined radio, because simply this is the most flexible solution for the wireless part. If you compare our lab with the usual big labs created by traditional vendors, our is optimized for cybersecurity purposes. It's simplified because it's not fully blown network simulation. It was never required. But this creates the bare minimum that you need to jumpstart with cybersecurity in 5G. And the important thing that this lab has built-in tools and functionality. It's actually prepared and equipped with tools for security testing of 5G, standalone and non-standalone. I know that today it's a big challenge for many companies, and not only for security divisions, to give it a try with the standalone roaming, for instance. This lab can be used in this case, for sure, not only limited to cybersecurity exercises, even though cybersecurity is the main goal. If we take a look inside, there are at least two ways how the end user can, utilize this lab: the simple and advanced mode. Since inside we have original service-based architecture with all the network functions, a lot of interfaces, with voice over new radio, with ability to connect all the possible end user devices. You can make integration with different external systems, like for external authentication, if you play like with some B2B use cases. In this case, via the command line interface, you can get direct access to change the way the network actually looks like. You can program network functions. You can change the way it works. You can add or remove different pieces. This is quite a comprehensive system to enable security teams to study telecom technologies and explore 5G environment in, with a deep dive. But for sure, this requires some skills, and this is need to be, practiced and developed. On the other side, there is also a simplified way using graphical user interface, where you perform all the tasks using the, web interface. You perform the inventory of the lab. You identify vulnerabilities. You can try to exploit the vulnerability and see what will be the negative impact. And then you can try and apply some fixes. You can introduce changes into the network configuration to make the hardening and see. After the second inspection, once again, you will see if the security measures in place are actually efficient or not. This is critical part of this exercise, because once you have tried and tested, security controls that work in lab, you can put it in the list of best practices to be implemented in the real world. This is exactly how it works on the IT side. You practice, you test first, then you go for the implementation. In terms of the licensing, this is also quite flexible solution. The first and obvious, you as an end user can get the cybersecurity lab in the form of platform. This is when the entire lab is hosted in customer premise, fully operational and managed by customer, with possibility of the local integration to all the possible other labs, systems, and so on. I would say that this is a very good option if you have in mind to build skilled in-house team with your own training environment. This is a good option. Another option, a little bit more lightweight, we call it managed security services. In this case, The lab can also be hosted in SecurityGen Cloud. And all the configurations and tests still performed by the customer, but supported by our experts. And with this type of joint efforts, we create new test cases, we try new security controls and mitigation techniques, which is important. And I would suggest this option if you're thinking about the importance of skilled in-house team, but you're not willing to spend time and resources creating and building and maintaining your own training environment on premise. And another last option is the most lightweight variant in the form of software as a service. In this case, it's fully hosted in SecurityGen Cloud, and customer manage all the configuration related to security test. You test, you verify, you identify vulnerabilities, you try and exploit this, you see what's the impact, you make verification after fixing. Let's say in this case, less network part, but still a lot of the exercise about the cybersecurity in telecom context, so very useful. In terms of usefulness, let's speak a little bit more about specific use cases, because this is at the end of the day the benefits that solution brings to the customers. And I would like to highlight specific use cases proven to be addressed. First, hands-on experience with 5G cybersecurity. I hope this is well understood. Second option is that exercises, let's say it makes sense for business when there is some practical applicability. And what you can do in lab is to identify and exploit vulnerabilities. You can estimate impact. You can make the projection on real business processes, what would be the negative impact if the same would happen in the real network. And then with this verified threat, you can actually, have the conversation with management with all of these inputs. You can make the decision regarding the remediation that should take place in reality. And of course, the remediation itself with mitigation measures should also be verified in the lab in terms of efficiency, applicability, cost, and so on. Another point is that telecoms are huge networks, right? With a lot of assets, and you need to scale. You need to, let's say, optimize the amount of time you spend. You need more better efficiency. In lab, you develop best practices. You develop specific security controls, which are specific or can be general. And then you can apply this to multiple networks, to different subsidiaries, to different vendors. So this is good. It gives more scale. And the final one, in case you ever have real security incident or some kind of cybersecurity issue, and you able to collect some information about it, you can actually replicate and repeat all the situation, let's say all the story in the lab, the full cycle of the attack, with attack, response, remediation, and so on. This is a very good practice which immediately increase the maturity of security team. Very useful. Some people may argue that if you are careful enough, maybe you can do all the same in the real network. But I say no, and probably network department will say no as well, because no one would like to jeopardize 5 nines and 6 nines that is planned for 5G. People may also say that you can use available testbed equipped with bare metal devices, equipped with real applications and network functions. This would be the perfect world, but in reality, there are multiple obstacles. Just to name one, security is a full-time job, and practicing and testing is a big part of this job. So using any kind of shared resources when network tasks are always a high priority, and this is no-brainer, well, this can be difficult. And this is pretty much why it's good to have a dedicated network security lab. Because first of all, it's really tiny. It's tiny compared to the usual network labs, which almost equal to low cost. Second, even being tiny, technology-wise, it's almost just like the usual network labs. Service-based architecture, encryption, USIM authentication, IPv6, quality of service, IMS, voice over new radio in general, support for non-3GPP networks, all there, and this is extendable. All for the sake to create the training platform to get 5G hands-on experience, even for non-telco people, for non-network people, for those who never meant to be, but those who take the responsibility to protect communication technologies today. And this is all for the sake to get ready to study technologies, to have actionable security practices in place. to be ready with tried and tested measures to be deployed in the real network. And to some extent, well, this lab is equipped with breach and attack simulation solution. It's equipped with tools to inspect, to hack, to verify the security posture. I would say that in some sense, this is the essence of our know-how. How to hack, how to protect, how to detect, all in form of the training test bed. And we not only propose this to our customers, but we actually, our experts, our auditors, our white hat security specialists, we use the same lab for our own security research. And we are happy to share this experience with the industry, because we are really committed to continuously support and upgrade this environment in order to keep up to date and, let's say, keep the pace of the technology evolution. This is it. So to wrap it up, I would say that 5G Cyber Security Lab, this is a very simplified way to dive into 5G, to get familiar with the system and study security aspects, vulnerabilities, and most important, test protection measures to estimate efficiency and consider implementation of those which are really good and potentially you can benefit when it is deployed in operation environment. So today, 5G Cybersecurity Lab is alive, and we are welcoming early adopters to jumpstart with hardcore but very practical telecom security. Thank you very much. It was Dmitry from SecurityGen. Thank you. Have a nice day.